This Black History Month, we're going to kick off the conversation with a presentation on the movement Black Lives Matter. We hope to share with you a bit about why the movement is still so important and why you may have heard it mentioned so often this year. Before we continue, it is important to think about and understand the word bias. Bias is the inclination or prejudice for or against a person or group, especially in a way that is considered to be unfair. Different types of bias can affect how different groups of society are perceived. For example, believing that all groups of young people are out to cause trouble would be an unfair bias. This can be the same with race and religion, when someone can be unfairly judged by the colour of their skin.
Black Lives Matter is a movement that started during 2013 that has recently gained more attention and coverage in the media and online. This international movement aims to tackle racial inequality across the world and make individuals and society as a whole less racially biased. The traction that this movement has gained recently has given us all reason to think about our own biases and try to educate ourselves and about what a racial bias means for us and for others.
Martin Luther King Jr. was a civil rights activist who advocated for racial equality. Nelson Mandela was a key figure for the fight for racial equality in South Africa and became the country's first black president. Rosa Parks, who refused to give up her seat to a white man on a bus, sparked the Montgomery bus boycott in the 1950s. These three figures are an extremely important part of the movement's history, but more recently the movement has gained momentum due to the death of George Floyd. His death was a motivator for people backing the movement because it became so obvious that racism and bias still exist today. This is why we think it is important to raise this issue and ask you to consider your own and others' biases. All Lives Matter is a term often used because people misunderstand what Black Lives Matter actually means. Everyone agrees that all lives do matter. But when someone says Black Lives Matter, they aren't saying that these are the only lives that matter. What they are saying is that Black lives matter too, because a lot of black people aren't treated as though their life matters as much as someone who isn't black. This is why the movement is called Black Lives Matter, because it specifically calls out racial discrimination against black people.
White privilege is when a white person in society has advantages that someone of another race might not have. This could be more opportunities, like job offers, etc. White privilege doesn't by any means take away from any difficulties someone may have faced. It just means that they're unlikely to have had a harder life based on the colour of their skin.
We have been provided with a wonderful reading list by Jane Hill that has lots of material about racism, black voices, inspirations and how to fight racism. If you want to educate yourself further, then this would be the place to find some materials about this topic. If you'd like to do so, then you can find this list on the Knox Academy Bulletin. This has been a brief description of a very vast topic, but please take a minute to think about the way you view different groups in society and think of a way you could improve the way you treat others. We would also encourage you to talk to your friends or family about this topic and discuss any other biases people may have, because even though today we have talked about racial bias, bias comes in many different forms and disadvantages many different people.